and welcome to the Hadassah Collective Podcast. I'm your host, Claire Marinan. The Hadassah Collective is a unique, wellness-centered community created in and inspired by India, the birthplace of holistic health disciplines. The Hadassah Collective Podcast brings together a carefully curated selection of my most trusted and inspiring innovators from every area of the health and wellness space. I invite my guests to freely share their gifts, their wisdom, their journeys, and their diverse points of view, discussing a vast range of topics including shutdown and self-isolation strategies, integrated diet and fitness, yogic science, modern mental health, and holistic lifestyle, all to inspire you with relatable tools to help you consciously customize, support, and expand your life. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Shivani Baghel, who is the founder of Dream Life Lounge and recent author of Awaken to Self-Love. In today's episode, we discuss how she found her passion and defied societal norms to pursue this passion and share her message with the world. She's a very bright, sparkly human being, and I think that you're going to really enjoy the insights from this message. Hi Shivani, welcome to the Hadassah Collective. It's so wonderful to have you here. Shivani is joining us. She is the founder of the Dream Life Lounge, and I'm so excited to have you here and have this conversation today.
Thank you so much, Claire, for having me. It's such a pleasure to actually do this with you. I have lately been so passionate about going loud about this message, and I'm super excited for a conversation.
Yeah, amazing. So let's start off by tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are and where you've been based throughout this whole Corona time and what that's been looking like for you.
So for me, honestly, to be very honest, it does not look very different. The lockdown, the Corona times, I think I have been mostly working from home the past 2 years from coffee shops. So I do miss my coffee shops for sure. But more than I think for me, this has been a great time to go within, great time to kind of actually do the work.
Yeah.
Like never before, honestly.
Yeah.
So I'm not even complaining. I mean, for me, it's a very testing time for the humanity right now, but I think it's also really awakening us to what is really within. And I'm sure we'll go more in depth about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a spiritual and mindset coach, and I am all about teaching people how to harness that power within so that they can make big changes on the outside. So yeah, in one line, I help make people changes on the inside so that they can go and make those changes on the outside.
Amazing. So beautiful. And so how did you get started on this path? How did you become this mindset advisor?
So I would say up until 2.5 years or so, I was a freelancing into digital marketing. So I was a content writer and social media manager. I was doing it for other brands as well as digital marketing. So at that point, 2018, up until 2018, I did not know there's something called coaching which exists. And especially so in India. I had no idea. And I remember clearly saying, maybe one day I will get into this. And by one day, I meant 10 years later, because this doesn't happen in India. And the thing is, I don't know if it was happening in India or not. Of course it was. But I wasn't seeing it in my reality. I wasn't seeing it, people around me, people in their 20s, my friends, or anybody from my family really getting to work with a coach, a spiritual coach, or a mindset coach, or a life coach even for that matter, honestly. It was just something which did not exist in my reality.
Yeah.
So for me, it was more like a personal call to just share my message. I just remember back in 2018, I just knew I have a message to share because I was going through my own personal awakening, my own spiritual awakening. And I was like, this is a message. There is a message I know. I've always been about writing. I associate myself primarily as a writer. I've worked the last 7 years as a writer. So for me, it was of course, I know I am somebody who has a message. And so that's where I started actually starting an Instagram page where I actually started sharing my intuitive messages and doing tarot low-key because I was so shy and embarrassed at that time. But I was still kind of like, for me, it was like an urgent call I had to answer.
Yeah.
Like it was really, really urgent. Like I could just feel it. If I don't do this right now, like I would just say, like I was falling sick. I was just getting all kind of signs like I am not aligned. If I continue on the path that I am, I need to shift things in my life. And because things on my inside had already shifted in the last, like I've been meditating since 2016, I think. Like regularly, I have known about spiritual awakening, but as I say, spiritual awakening, spiritual life is not just about having just 1 hour in the morning, honestly.
Yeah.
It's so much more. You have to shift your life. I'm not saying everybody goes out there and becomes a spiritual or mindset coach, but there are certain actions, certain changes and shifts in your external life, and your purpose calls you really, really loudly when you align to that energy within. And I think that's what happened with me in 2018 when I started that Instagram page.
Wow, that's so amazing, and so brave of you as well to like step forward and just to so vulnerably put yourself out there, especially that you don't have any of this around you, and so it really was a big step for you. But I think it's really interesting, and I think we'll maybe touch on it a little bit later, about how you were having such clear signs like in your body that it's like this is your path and you need to share this message, and everything else just felt really out of alignment. So we'll definitely touch on that a little bit later. I want to come back to that, but let's also talk about the contrast. Like, let's talk about your early life. What did that look like? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? And tell us a little bit about what that time in your life looked like. And did it play into this journey? Was health and wellness and spirituality a part of that at all?
So I would say I've pretty much all my life been in New Delhi. I shifted to New Delhi when I was in class 5, so that's almost like me spending my entire life here. I would say more like South Delhi. My school was right here, my college was right here, my offices have been like in this 30-kilometer radius.
Yeah.
So my life has not been as adventurous or explorative on the outside so much. So it's been a pretty normal upbringing, I would say. Of course, I've been very ambitious, and it's not like I had very traditional parents. My parents always wanted me to probably go out, study, go out, and probably stay alone. So it's not like I had this traditional upbringing which barred me from doing all of this.
Yeah.
This was kind of like what even I wanted to do at some point, but I strongly feel this is my great point as well, because I really feel that if I wasn't really here in this environment, I wouldn't have had the stability to kind of build my spiritual energy and to actually go within. I feel a lot of times I was definitely one of those, because we all watch movies and we all get influenced by it. Like, if you have to find yourself, you have to go and travel. And so for me, I have been like so like negatively attached myself to the concept of traveling, because I believe that if I don't do this, then I'm not enough, or if I don't do this, that I am not really finding myself. But let's be honest, you find yourself when you are like there with yourself. It doesn't have to do so much for the outside, but the inside.
Yeah.
And I believe like the more I pushed to go outside, my life pushed me to go inside. And I did try I really tried hard to go outside, to probably look for a job, or to actually, I even applied to UK universities at one point to get my master's in journalism. But yeah, my life always pushed me somewhere to just do this place, which I said it was necessary for me to build on the spiritual knowledge, wisdom, and this energy that I can now share with other people. Not to say obviously, so yes, my life has had those aspects of it is definitely a contrast to what I'm living right now. Even on the outside, somebody would be like, oh, you were here 10 years ago and you're still living here in 10 years later. But I would say it has really radically shifted a lot in terms of what I do for work, in terms of people I am with, in terms of who I am, most importantly. Yes, I graduated in business economics. I decided to do writing because I finally realized in my last year that I'm not this traditional, this traditional educational path is not for me. I knew it, I mean, even initially, but I tried to fit in. And that's when I kind of like took a break, kind of explored a lot of internships, did a lot of freelancing to, build and understand and find my path to writing, journalism, if this is for me or not. And this is not something I think a lot of people in India do this. But I'm grateful. But I'm grateful that I got this opportunity to kind of like do this and really find my own path through that. And as I said, I applied to Masters in Journalism. I was selected for really amazing universities, but at that point I just realized, because I think I've always been I'm a Pisces sun. I have always been very attracted to personal growth, self-development. So I was still doing all of that any which way. And at that point, I just realized, honestly, just a week ago, that it was a mindset shift where I realized I don't need to have a master's degree necessarily in journalism to actually start writing, to start doing what I really love to do. Also, just plugging it in here, I didn't even know there's a difference between journalism and writing. I mean, at that point, I knew, okay, if I like writing, journalism is my only way. If I now think of it, political journalism is not even something I'm made for. Lifestyle journalism doesn't have much scope of studying so much in India, which is why I was applying to universities. But I did freelance, actually. I interned at this very big, it's a lifestyle channel in India. And that's where I just looked at all these people and they were like, we never had a lifestyle journalism degree, honestly. So all these beautiful anchors, I used to watch them on TV, and when I actually spoke to them, the producers and all that, they were like, great that you're going ahead for this masters, but none of us really had any of that. And that's when it kind of ticked me, because society kind of shapes in this way that you got to have this thing. You got to have X if you want to do something you love. If you want to do anything in life, you got to have a degree. And I think that's where I think for the first time ever, I released myself from that pattern and that conditioning. And that's when I started applying for jobs. And again, to be very honest, it's expensive to go out and stay by yourself and spend a lot of money and time and then do something which you're not even sure of at that point. So I was like, let me just work, let me just test it out, and if I really like, I will go with my own money. Of course, that's when I started working. I got a job in digital media, and at that time, digital media was so new. This was 2013, 14, 15. That time, it was still new comparatively in India. The whole BuzzFeed culture was still coming in. So it was a dream job, honestly, to be writing lifestyle articles and being actually paid for it. It was wow, you can be paid for what you love to do. That was my first breakthrough moment, honestly.
And, this is so interesting because I think that there's a couple of things that I want to touch on with you in terms of breaking barriers for people who are listening. And I love this, actually, because you are right. A lot of people are like, you have to go and travel and you have to go and experience different things to really find yourself. That is something that culturally, societally, we hold that as a truth, right? And you have to get out of your family and you have to, go and find yourself. Whereas I think that that's a really interesting concept that you're sort of breaking, because what is somebody's medicine is somebody else's poison, right? And so for you for some people, staying at home and staying within that family unit can be very suffocating, and they can't really explore themselves fully. They don't have that freedom. They have to be who maybe their family expects them to be, or the people that they grew up with expect them to be. And so when they go out and they go and live somewhere else on their own, then they have that freedom to go and explore who they are. But really, I want to open that up for anyone that's listening that feels like, oh, well, I'm stuck at home and so I can't find myself, because it was actually such a gift to you, because you had that structure, that stability, and that ability to be able to go into yourself and not not for fear of losing yourself, right? Because you had that structure around you. So that actually was such a blessing for you in what you are doing now. So I think that that's really cool.
Yeah, and it's only now that I can honestly see it as a blessing, honestly. I won't pretend that I've always seen it like that, because somewhere I have kind of also really struggled, really resisted.
Of course.
Just like any other millennial who feels like their parents are their enemies. And they don't just get you, and they just want to like confine you. And of course, I'm not saying that it's wrong to feel any of those emotions, because I have felt all of them too, and I won't even deny sometimes I still, you bring all those things back again into your life. But at the end of the day, now that I can discern, when you're putting blame on someone else, it's something that you need to go within. And secondly, I think your parents are your biggest teachers. They are your biggest karmic teachers. They're your biggest soulmates. If not today, tomorrow, you will have to learn those lessons. I think I was fortunate. I just feel like I've learned a lot of more karmic lessons from my parents than probably people learn in a series of strings of relationships.
Of course.
For me, it's been because I've spent so much time with my parents, honestly. Because I've spent so much time being around this place. I have learned a lot. And of course, I won't say like, oh, I've had this, of course, it's been a good place to be in, but of course I've had my own struggles. And I think one of the places which I want to just touch upon is something which I know a lot of, because I see my friends, I see everybody I've grown up with, that we have somewhere kind of like come to a place where we feel that if we are in a specific place, we shouldn't have these emotions of sadness or depression. I mean, if I see most of the people around us, we feel we are privileged. We are privileged if we have food on our table. And it's something to be grateful for, but I don't think it's a privilege. And I feel it's time that we debunk this myth that only somebody who's on street is struggling. That only somebody who's on street, who wants food on their table is someone who needs help or who needs a mentor or who needs a guide. I mean, that's like most of the people who are going through depression are people who actually sit in ACs all the time. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, that's a really...
And then the society is like, you have no right to be depressed. And that's the thing, because life is not just about having food on your table or having this safety. Yes, I have this structure and I'm so grateful, which is why I said, the Maslow's theory, how it goes. Once your needs and security and safety is satisfied, then only can you go to the higher level and go deep within, to go and explore yourself or your spirituality. I think I got that place in my life to do that. But at the same time, I mean, I've lived with this guilt for so long, and I'm privileged. But I just then one day I just looked around and I said, honestly, all my friends, everyone around me, most of the people do have this opportunity. It's not like they don't have this opportunity. It's just that we have been trained in a way to feel that it has to be a struggle. That I don't have... of course, there are some people who don't absolutely have the means. Maybe that's not their path to discover more about themselves, their spirituality. But for most of the people right now, in this time, at least I would say, there is a bigger calling. There is a reason why most of us are living in guilt of our blessings. I mean, I'll be honest, I used to feel so guilty that my dad has a big car, and I was like, oh my God, what have I done to get this? And that is also something. I mean, I know this might sound like, oh, this is a third world. This is, like the first world problems. I know that's how it sounds in India. But majority of people are experiencing that. We have the external security, but we want more because we want to prove ourselves. But at the same time, we're not able to kind of go deep within, because we are just artificially seeking that outside, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's almost not authentic gratitude either. It's more gratitude that comes from a space of comparison, actually. It's not a true sense of satisfaction and gratitude for the privileges that you have been afforded in your life. And I think that's an interesting concept as well that you had around guilt, is that, and guilt for feeling sad or for feeling shame, or, you know, because I totally understand that, because we have somehow sort of created this idea that, you know, well, there are other people that are worse off than me, so I don't really have the right to feel these things. And I think it's super unhealthy, and I've used this analogy before, that we don't actually treat our emotional wounds in the same way that we treat our physical wounds. In the sense that if you were shot, it doesn't actually matter if you're sitting on the side of the road or if you're sitting in a penthouse. You still need to go and get that wound tended to, take out the bullets and let it heal. Otherwise, you're not going to be functioning and moving and walking at your highest capacity. You know, and with emotional wounds, it's exactly the same. It doesn't matter what you have. Obviously, the environmental stresses are different for many different people. And there's always going to be people that have more privilege than you, and there's always going to be people that have less privilege than you if you look for it, right? But with emotional wounds, we kind of, you know, we use that sliding scale of comparison, whereas they're just wounds as well, and they need to be tended to in the same way that our physical wounds need to be tended to. So I think that's really interesting that you highlighted that and you brought that up as well.
Yeah. Also, I think it's important to know that, as I just talked about the whole Maslow's theory concept, and I think anything for that matter works in the same way. There are people who need to survive, whose probably sole contract of this life is to survive, right? There are people who are meant to innovate. There are people who are meant to spiritually awaken and do the inner work. There are people who are meant to awaken the masses. And we all have different spiritual contracts, soul contracts, and none is better than the other. It's just that it's different. And for that, we need to have different environments. I'm just saying that I wouldn't have been doing the work that I'm doing if my environment was not what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not saying... and
because you would be worried about surviving. You wouldn't be able to tune into that space because you would be concerned about providing for your family.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And... at the same time, let's be honest, for somebody who is like, who needs to read, like, I'll just give an example of like, one of the reasons why probably my parents' generation were not able to go so deeply spiritually or to do the work that I'm doing. I really feel it's like my entire family has always, and because I've healed my ancestral lineage and I can just like so closely observe and understand now, probably everybody in my ancestral trine always was attracted to this work, but never had the capacity, means and tools to do this work. And so in a way, when I look back, I can just see how they probably built up for me. I don't know if you have that. There's an oracle deck called the Oracle of the Light by Rebecca Campbell. It has a card called Anna, the grandmother of Jesus. And the card is about how she laid foundations of this spiritual development, how she did a lot of work, but nobody knows about her. But she actually created a structure which was ready so that when Jesus comes, he can do the work that he needed to do.
He was told to do.
Kind of inspired from that. I just feel like if you everybody can actually have that capacity to kind of like look within and look at their ancestral line, they will see how, yes, you have, how your parents say, I used to walk barefoot to my school, I think. I've listened to enough self-development programs. I used to think it's just an Indian story. I think worldwide all parents tell the same story.
Yeah.
Yes, they had more of physical struggle because maybe their soul contract was to build more of a physical security.
Yeah.
Like my dad's work was different than my grandfather's work. My grandfather's work was different from his grandfather's work, right?
Yeah.
And we're all building upon each other and providing each other the structure that we need to. And probably my kids tomorrow will build on a new structure, and they might be like 100 times more privileged than I ever was, but they would be building something new for the world, which is needed at that point of time.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's so interesting that you mention your parents, because I was going to ask you, because I'm sure there are so many people listening that are like, my parents would go mad if I was going to do my journalism masters and then I decided to become a spiritual mindset coach. You know, so how did that unfold, and how?
Okay. So my parents have been used to this. Let me be honest. I come from a family of engineers. And I am like the eldest in my entire family. So nobody has ever done anything apart from engineering. None of my cousins, none of my relatives.
Yeah.
And so, yes, when I said I don't want to do science, that was the first time I had this disruption.
Yeah.
Then when I chose business economics, I mean, I just like kid around this. Like my father was always like, okay, if you don't do engineering, okay, he convinced himself, okay, fine, she's going to do economics. And he was like, oh, economics. And then I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do writing. And then like, okay, journalism, writing, wow. And then I was like, okay, I'm going into digital marketing. And I know this was fine, sounds so flaky on the outside, but to be very honest, I think all these different experiences taught me everything that I needed to make this spiritual business that I have today.
Yeah.
I think the last 4 years being in digital marketing, the last 6 years being in digital marketing industry has kind of like got me a hang of, for me, writing is not a struggle. For me, creating content or graphics is not a struggle. I don't have a team. I do it everything by myself, because I have been working with Canva since the last 7 years.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't like your designs to go with my blog, so I'm going to make my own designs. And I learned Canva through that. And I've been working through it, and I loved it. And I think that has supported me.
It's been your process.
To do what I'm really doing. So none of it is a wastage of time. I believe you have been put in a place because of your spiritual lessons and because of to gather tools and pieces probably which you need in your purpose, I would say, in your higher purpose.
Yeah, that's such a great lesson. And I do think that it's really powerful when you look back as well, because I also actually studied journalism. And I really wanted to work in magazines. Like that was what I really wanted to do. And then I ended up on a completely different path. And it's really funny when you look back, and now I'm interviewing people. So my mum actually pointed this out to me. She thought it was really funny. She said, and when you look back at things, then nothing is actually wasted. It's all little breadcrumbs leading you to where you're meant to be. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to take time to do sometimes, and look back at how far you've come and how synchronicities add up to where you are and where you're going. So that's exciting.
Yeah. I also grew up watching all these interviews, honestly, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to go into journalism, because this idea of talking to people, interviewing people, or being interviewed, both of it sounded just so good. And even now I have my podcast and I get to do this, and I'm like, okay, I low-key have my own show.
Yeah.
So, I think things, if I just look at it, it's just like we didn't even know something like podcast or this technology would exist 10 years ago. And we had a dream at that time. Just to think of it in retrospect just sounds so beautiful, that somehow technology and everything, all circumstances somehow developed in the last 10 years when we were developing other skills.
Yeah.
To just like imagine 10 years ago, who would have thought you could just casually launch your own podcast?
Yeah.
I think that's
amazing.
The magic.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I think that technology has really opened up and allowed, at the perfect time, and has sort of allowed people to step into their giftings and share their giftings and their messages in a very unique way. And I don't think it's any coincidence that it is at the time we are at in humanity right now, that those messages are coming through and are more accessible than they ever have been before. So I think that it's really powerful, and a really powerful time for people to really step into that. So yeah, so that's very cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't have awakened, I think, without technology being this way.
Yeah, because it's made it very accessible to people. I mean, I think it's even interesting during this kind of lockdown COVID time is like I've been so tuned into like meditations in LA or in Australia and, you know, different teachings and things like that, that usually maybe wouldn't even be on my radar. I mean, especially in the first month of quarantine, there was like, I mean, overdrive Instagram lives, you know, and it was like some of my favorite teachers that I would usually never have access to unless I physically went, went to one of their workshops or seminars or something like that, and all of a sudden we had them at our fingertips. And so I thought that's really cool as well. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, because honestly, when I started spiritually awakening, it's interesting that I actually did not awaken through an Indian spiritual teacher. I know nothing about people in India doing this work up until, I would say, last year. As I said, no one in my family has been so much into astrology, numerology, or tarot was a woo-woo concept, honestly. None of it, honestly, was like in my reality at all. I don't know how. Yeah, it was through a Facebook group. It was because I started looking up for things on YouTube. It started with binge watching tarot readings and then discovering more. And then that's how I started discovering more concepts and more things and about spiritual awakening. And then through a Facebook group. And then we're like, oh, there are people in India having these same experiences.
Wow.
And that's how I connected to people in India. And that's when I kind of like, okay, this is not just, because there was a time I was like, what if this is just a very westernized concept of the whole spiritual awakening Aquarian age? Because I don't see anybody in India. Like, as I said, my reality was like, all my friends, they've done MBA, they were doing MBA at that time, they were in their jobs.
Yeah.
So this was completely alien concept. I mean, at that time I was still going to office. I was still having that life on the outside. It was like a part-time. I was living two lives at once. Like when I would be home, I would be meditating, I would be interacting with these people who were talking about aliens and ET contacts and oracle cards and crystals and all of this woo-woo stuff. And when I would be outside, even the fact that I'm doing tarot was like something which would be so funny, apparently.
Yeah.
That's how it looked like in 2018, I would say, just like, 2018 and early 2019.
It's interesting, actually, because I think sometimes we don't accept the things that are from our own home, you know, or like our home country. We kind of just see that as very traditional and, you know, put aside. Whereas in the West, especially, you know, we were all looking to India and we were tapping into these like ancient Indian practices, you know, and that was one of the things that I was really shocked about when I moved to India, because it was one of the big draw cards for me, because I was very into Ashtanga yoga and Ayurveda at that time, and I was just like, wow, I'm going to be in the home of like yoga, you know, and I had this very naive, I laugh about it now, but this concept that, you know, everybody in India must have grown up doing yoga. Like this is, you know, like in Australia, everybody grew up playing cricket. I mean, it's the same in India as well, but like, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, they must, like, yoga must be their thing. Like everybody in Australia plays Aussie rules football, like as a kid or something like that. And I'm like, maybe everybody does yoga. And when I came to Bombay, no one did, you know, yoga. So it's interesting. Sometimes you need something that is outside of yourself, that is different from yourself, to see a different perspective. And then it kind of, for me, it very much comes full circle, because I love like yoga and Ayurveda, but I come from like a very Christian background. And so then it comes full circle for me, incorporating that aspect of spirituality as well and understanding that from a different perspective. So it's so funny that you kind of did the other way around. So
Yeah, for me, it's been like, it started from the West, I would say, and then I'm like, oh, there are people in India. And that's, I think, I would say in the last, especially this year, I think somehow I've really gone deeper I was in this phase. I would want to say, I think most of the people in India right now, most of the millennials in India right now are in this phase of, you know, religion and God has become very political in India. So most of the people don't want to be associated, so they would rather be called an atheist or just say universe or intuition or higher self. I mean, that was me. I'll be honest, that was me 3-4 years back, where I would say, oh, your higher self or God or universe and all that. I'm like, what's the problem in saying God?
Yeah.
Of course, the Christian aspect is different, but in India, God is Krishna, God is Ganesh, God is all of these in entities we have grown up with. But that's the thing, because we've grown up with these, it's become more like, you know, something you just don't really even think about. Like, you go to temples because you've just always gone to a temple.
Yeah.
You just, like, do things, you celebrate things. Of course, I always believed in God. Of course, I always prayed. But the concept has radically shifted for me in the past 2 years. Like, yes, I think I really needed to kind of like see it from that other perspective and to see it from, I mean, I had to understand it.
Yeah.
And I think the things go wrong because in India it's just been like, oh, it's a tradition, so you follow it. That's something which I think millennials don't like. So the thing I think which I'm very passionate about is to start decoding these things for people around me. That like now when I look back, I'm like, everything makes 100% sense. Be it Ayurveda, be it the worshipping sun, moon, be it worshipping all the goddesses. I mean, I took an Akashic oracle reading from an American who advised me to listen to Lakshmi mantra, and I was like, I would have never done this. And I remember I told a friend, and I was like, don't just make fun of me. But yeah, I was listening to it, and because I was like, oh, you're gonna judge that I'm listening to, like, that's how things look like, I would say, normally in India for millennials.
Yeah,
there is a lot of judgment, and there is a lot of, oh, I'm into it, but I'm not into it. And that's how, I mean, now that I go deeper, I just feel that's how we are losing our culture. That's how we are.
Yeah.
The Americans don't shy away from singing bhajans and kirtans on beaches or doing this. Like, I think in the West, this is the super new cool, right? This is the new cool thing to do yoga, to be into Ayurveda, to be into crystals, to be into all of these things. In India, yoga is still becoming, I think, a very more in thing now. But all of these other things, I think it's still very much like, oh, like, I don't want to be a part of this.
I think it is coming around full circle with people like yourself, actually. Like you say, I love that phrase, decoding these things and bringing a more approachable modern twist to the traditions. And I think that there is a balance between commercialization and also making things relatable, because you don't want to lose too much of the essence of the practices by trying to commercialize and dumb things down. But I think that it's amazing that people like you are rising up, and other people I've had on the podcast as well, that are sort of blending these ancient traditions with like modern principles. And I think that that's really cool, and it's meeting a generation that's never met before. And I also think it's an interesting concept as well, that this concept of God, whatever that looks like for you or as an individual, is what society has built around that. Like, I have very similar feelings in regards to Christianity. Like, I love Jesus' teachings. I think that, there's so much wisdom to be learned through that. There's so much peace to be learned through those teachings and things like that. And having an understanding and a personal revelation of God. But what we have built around that, the religion that we have built around that, has actually been very, very destructive to people. And isolating and alienating to people. So it's interesting that you describe that in a very similar way in terms of like the Hindu traditions as well, about how it's been so politicized and it puts people off. It puts a distance between people and the divine. And I think this age that we're moving into now is that we're moving out of that age of the guru, of the teacher, of the follower. Not that there aren't teachers and not that they're not valuable and should be revered, but it really is about self-connection and self-responsibility and your own cultivation of your relationship with the divine. And I think that's so beautiful.
I think it's a very interesting question one needs to ask. What does God look like to you? Mm-hmm. What is the definition of God? And know that just because you were born in a certain place, you don't have to have that definition. Like how... for me, it's really like it will always keep on expanding. It's not something which is meant to be limited. It's not something which is meant to be restricted. This is how it looks like. It can look like and it will keep on changing. I think that's the beauty of it. It will keep on changing and shifting and evolving as you shift and evolve.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move into talking about some practices. I mean, I think that practice that you just mentioned right there inadvertently is really beautiful, and that would actually be my prayer to anybody that is listening to this podcast, is just take some time and just ask God to be revealed in your life, ask yourself. And so I think that that's a really powerful practice actually to do, to go beyond all of these stereotypes and these ideas that we have placed on God, and just see how the divine is revealed in your own life. But for you personally, have you had any rock bottom moments or dark nights of the soul that you faced along the way, and any particular modalities and practices that you've used to navigate those?
Definitely. I think 2018, as I said, I would not have been kind of like, I mean, of course, why would I really go on to become a tarot reader after all of this interesting, right? Even though, of course, I've always knew that my idea was always like, I've had this blog, honestly, for like years. And I knew that I would end up doing something of my own for sure one day. And I think I got distracted on the path, but it was all for good. But at the same time, yes, it was definitely my dark night of the soul, which I think happens in phases a lot of times. I termed those phases anxiety and depression earlier when I didn't know enough. When I knew better, I would say dark night of the soul. I was awakening. And so that's what like 2018 for me was. It was 2018, 2016. I think both these years were a lot about going within and really meet my own self and really take the action. So first is you save yourself. You understand, okay, this is what's happening. First of all, you're like, okay. And then you heal yourself, and that's when you later go on to heal others, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, yes, as I said, somewhere when you're not aligned, everything in your life starts showing up in that same way as well, right? Mm-hmm. So anxiety, all symptoms of depression, or even having migraines, and I was really falling sick a lot. All of these things, they are clear signs if somebody's experiencing it, you're not aligned to the path. Things need to shift. Something needs to shift big time. And if you talk about modality, I think, yes, what really, really, really saved me in those times was actually connecting to God in a way in which I hadn't ever before. As I said, I've always grown up praying, going to temples occasionally with my parents, celebrating all the festivals. But it was only, I think, 2018 when I actually sat down, actually listened to a Krishna chant, or actually chanted for the first time, or actually had these meditations where I actually saw visions and where things started making sense to me, what was happening on the outside. So yes, it was meditation, definitely. It was chanting. And later EFT came, I think, for me, which was really helpful, really life-changing.
Yeah.
And I realized EFT is not just a healing modality, honestly, because I would say most of my troubles were not so much external as much as they were internal. And it's a big thing. Like, I don't know why we just undermine the internal struggles. Because I was really, really, really struggling at that time. Because I was no more happy doing what I was doing. I didn't know what's next.
And then you were putting guilt on top of that. And then you were already feeling like that. And then you're putting guilt on top of that, saying, oh, I don't have the right to feel like that. It's awful.
Yeah. Like, what's your problem, Shivani? Why are you feeling this way? Everything is super perfect. And that was the time when I let go of my my closest friends. People I never thought I would have to let go of, right? Because I just no more aligned. Of course, at that point, when you are in the dark, you just have this tendency to push people away, and I think I needed it at that time to go within, to really go within, because if I would have really clinged on to those experiences, those people, and those things, I would have. And I was trying to fit in, honestly, for a very long time. You try to fit in, and then there comes a day where you're like, I can't do this, and I don't want to do this anymore. Yes, and yes,
some people actually never get to that day. Some people actually never get to that day. They just continue to try to fit in. So it's actually, it's amazing that you did come to that realization that you were, that was happening. And so when you say go within, what did that look like in the beginning? Like, what were you doing? How did you start off? Like, what was your initial meditation practice? What were your initial sort of chanting practices? How did that look like when you were a complete beginner and you were just sort of finding your way?
So, as I said, I've always experienced migraines, honestly. But in that year, it really became very, very frequent and very painful. And, migraine is something which people are like, oh, so what? Everybody experiences it. But who those experience it, no, it's really unbearable. For me, and I would say again, for some people it can just come in different shape and form. For me, it was this physical pain, which was really, really, they say, unless and until you experience that kind of pain, you don't really ask for help. Yeah. And of course, migraine happens because you're extremely stressed and you're extremely worried and you're extremely not grounded, not feeling safe, not feeling stable. Yeah. So all of these things would lead to that experience, and then the migraine. I mean, for me, it was just like these rapid awakenings which happened with each migraine experience in the beginning, where it would be just so painful, and after that, I would just listen to mantras on repeat, just listen to chants on repeat, just have my crystals and my essential oils there, and that was the time. And you can't go and scroll Instagram when you're having a migraine. You can't do anything. You just have to be in a room and just be with yourself. And that is, I think, the point of surrender for me. That was a point of surrender for me, where your thought will fight with you. Your thoughts will really fight with you for a very long time. But when you're in physical pain, honestly, it drops. It drops. You don't think at that point. And for me, that was how it was. So I think it started with that. I mean, I just remember that was the time of really going within. And then I started understanding, of course, things started revealing. Every experience was like when I meditated. When you spend that much time with yourself, of course, answers come to you. Of course, new guidance comes to you. For me, journaling, of course, as I said, I've always been into writing. Journaling has been my place to be. Things make so much sense when you put them on paper, honestly. And so for me, journaling, and I remember I used to do this gratitude walks in my balcony, and I would just say things I'm grateful for, even though I mean initially you're like, oh, I have nothing to be grateful for at this time. But really doing gratitude walks, really doing just journaling and chanting and being with myself. Self-nurturing, I would say, Self-nurturing is which takes you within, knowing that you care for yourself enough to take care of yourself, if that makes sense, and you love yourself enough to really do things for yourself. even if it means something as small as taking the time to just be at home, to skip a party, to not really give in to the external validations. Like, I was 25? When you're 25, your life looks like what? Like, you are hanging out with your office people, you're going to parties, you're dating people, you are with your friends, and I could have had that. I'm not saying that it was taken away from me. I think something in me stepped back because I knew it's not going the right way. I knew I was escaping things.
Yeah,
and that was kind of the experience which kind of like made me go with it.
Yeah, amazing. And let's talk a little bit about self-love, because congratulations, you've just released your first book on self-love. You've become a bit of a self-love expert, actually, and I think that it's really interesting. And because it's a phrase that's really thrown around quite a lot. You know, oh, you have to love yourself, and it can be quite abstract. So tell us what you think that self-love means to you.
Yes, I think I would have never ever thought that I would write a book on self-love for sure, because it was so cliche. And I'm an Aquarius moon. I hate being cliche.
Yeah.
But I think it's this understanding that self-love is not what commercials put, force upon us. It's not, the hair care. It's not this, if you straighten your hair today, you love yourself. If you take a bubble bath with this XYZ soap, you are an epitome of self-love. That's what commercials have been trying to sell us for so long. And I wouldn't say I've been in, of course I'm a woman and somebody in her 20s. I have spent most of my life struggling with my skin color, struggling with my body, struggling with my hair. Like, hair has been my number one struggle area. Like, my mom used to be like, the day you start earning, ever since I was like probably in my high school, the day you start earning, you're gonna spend all your money on hair care products. And yes, I agree, there was a point I had a straightener, I had a blow dryer, I had a serum, I had this hair defense, whatever stuff. Like, I had like 10 hair products, because I was just... And then I realized, honestly, in the last few years, the hair was never the problem. It was the problem of how I was seeing it. When that shifted, my relationship with myself shifted, and my hair also started shifting and behaving the way it was. Like, it's just like, it's a stubborn relationship. You're going to push it, it's going to push harder. You're going to push it, it's going to push harder.
Yeah.
Like, how you try to lose weight, and then people who struggle with losing weight are so frustrated because they're like, I'm trying and I'm hitting the gym every time and it's still not happening. So it always happens like that. The harder you push, the harder it pushes back. And yes, for me, I mean, I remember yes, I have literally been always like straightening my hair. I started doing this like what? In school? Yes. And since then I did not stop up until 2018. Straightening and blow drying. And of course I know doing your hair is such a normal thing. And I'm not shaming anybody who does that. All I'm saying is, for me, it became a source of validation. It became a source to prove that I'm good enough.
Yeah.
And that's what you start doing with every single thing. I'm just giving you an example of my hair.
Yeah.
I started doing this extremely forceful, trying to prove myself act in every area of my life. Be it with my relationships, be it with my friendships. Oh, if I have a lot of friends, I'm good enough. Oh, if I'm going to, have more pictures on Instagram, I'm good enough. If I have more people in my life, I'm good enough. If I'm doing a job or credential which is very fancy, I'm good enough. If I'm earning XYZ money, I'm good enough. And you keep on chasing to prove yourself you're good enough. And that never happens, let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's chasing.
It's a bottomless pit of chasing.
Yeah.
So for you, your perspective on self-love is really a perspective of radical self-acceptance. Is that correct?
And doing things, really making bold decisions, really taking actions which support your well-being. What I said, there were actions like I realized last year, I have to take care of my physical health. And I joined yoga not because I wanted to lose weight, not because it was fancy or it was cool, but because I really wanted to be healthy so that I can just feel good. Because I was just frustrated by falling sick every 2 months.
Yeah.
And
because I think a lot of times the concept of self-love is very much confused with self-care. Like your bubble baths, I sit and watch Netflix and jade roll on my face. That's not self-love. That's just self-care. Self-love is less about an external thing that you're doing and more about an eternal honoring of yourself, I think, like this internal honoring of who you really are. And I think that that's sort of a very beautiful perspective on self-love. But I think that people struggle sometimes, and I hope you can sort of answer this or speak to this a little bit, is that people get scared when they think about self-acceptance because they think, well, I want to lose weight, but if I accept myself at this weight, does that mean that I'm always going to be this weight? Do you know what I mean? I hear a lot of that, and it's hard for people to get their head around that. Whereas I personally feel that until you accept something and integrate something, then you can never heal it. If you're hating something, you can't heal it. Can you speak to that concept a little bit if people are a little confused with that kind of self-acceptance?
So I think I teach manifestation also, okay? So I'll just explain it from the manifestation point of view as well. Though this is something which I think if anybody is struggling, this is something most of the teachers don't want to tell you because they really want you to accept you for who you are. But okay, let's just talk about it. You want to manifest, say, losing X amount of weight. And you're focusing on, I want to lose weight, which comes from this vibration that I'm not good enough, which just comes from this vibration that I'm not already healthy, I'm not already good enough, which means you're not accepting yourself. So you don't attract anything from a place of lack.
Yeah.
You create where your focus goes, right? So if your focus is going to the lack of it, you're never going to really build on it. And if you really want to lose weight, I think that's what happens. A lot of times people spend so much of effort in, doing I was honestly so shocked when I joined yoga and I saw people, they have their gym memberships, they have their yoga memberships, they have their diets going on. And I was like, okay, because I've never done that, honestly. And they go to Pilates and go to 10,000 things. And there's nothing wrong with that. The thing is, it is a very desperate energy, and not for the outsiders, for your own self. It's like every time you do these things, it's giving...
So it's interesting because it's never about the external thing. It's not about the Pilates, it's not about the yoga, it's not about the gym, and it's not about the diet. Those things are all like neutral things. They're just external physical things in the physical realm. They're neutral, really. But it's about the energy that you bring to them. Like if you're going to Pilates because you love it and it makes you feel so good, or if you're going to Pilates like 10 times a week because you're terrified that you're going to put on weight, that's a completely different energy that you're bringing to the same practice. So, yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's what I was trying to kind of really put into the picture, that the energy is that of neediness, it's that of desperation, it's that of that I don't have it already. And yes, it might feel like very scientific, it might feel like, oh, why are we putting it so, we're breaking it down into like that, but that's how energy works. It is a very logical, scientific thing. And at the same time, understanding that where there is hatred, how can you allow more love to step in? What will you actually, even if you lose that weight, let's be honest, even if you lose that weight, even if you become that perfect figure which you feel your ideal self should look like, do you really think you'd be 100% happy? It's gonna be your hair the next thing. It's gonna be that pimple on your face the next thing. It's gonna be, oh, let me get a nose job, or let me just get whatever things done, right? It's the thing is, the problem is not the weight, the problem is not the hair, the problem is none of the stuff on the outside, not even your relationship, not even your career so much as the problem is inside. And so my idea behind doing this ebook, it might sound like a very feminine, radical way of loving yourself. And of course, I do have self-care, I do have a self-care PDF as well, as a bonus PDF, because I do think self-care is important. Somebody who is like me, who I tend to avoid self-care sometimes because I'm just in a rush sometimes, because I'm just somebody, I'm a manifesting generator, and I'm like, just build. And that can kind of work me out, and I need my self-care practices to bring me back. But self-love is not just limited to self-care. And this is like going back to 2018 when I said that the decisions I took that year, I think they were hard decisions, but I took them anyway because I think there was this feeling of like, I really do want a better life for myself. I really do want to love myself and show this love to myself deeply. And so not just 2018, going forward, 2019, every second, every moment, I think every decision you take, every action you take reflects how you see yourself. It reflects what you feel about yourself. It reflects what are you giving yourself. Because we have the masculine and the feminine energy within. The way you treat yourself that's why a lot of times, all the times, a reflection of the way other people treat you is a reflection of how you treat yourself, right? So if you don't love yourself enough, yes, you will manifest situations on the outside where people also somewhere show you the same vibration. If you're struggling a lot in your relationships, it's a very good idea to look at your relationship with yourself. What is your relationship with yourself like? Are you really like running away from your own love? Are you really running away from giving yourself the love that you need? That's going to manifest on the outside. That did for me as well. I mean, honestly, for me, my relationships have been the biggest teachers for me to understand about self-love. So it was only when I could go into this understanding of unconditional love that I could understand that it all starts from within. I cannot really love anybody on the outside. I cannot ask for anybody's love on the outside until and unless I give that love to myself. So honestly, your weight, your hair, your issues are just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
It's not even the problem. Like, honestly, if you go deeper,
they're actually a good indicator, though, of what needs to be looked at.
They're symptoms.
They're the kind of trigger, they're the kind of indicator that it's like, there's something up here. When you're obsessing about something, it's the time.
It's a good idea to look within. Yes, if you're obsessing about something, if you're really like, for me, I think, yes, I remember it was a very hard decision to make, honestly. I left all my hair tools and all the stuff, completely ditched them in 2018 January. I remember because I went to the salon and the hairdresser was like, he was the first hairdresser, because all the hairdressers have been like, you need to get smoothing done, you need to get XYZ done, you need to get this done, and I have been a kind of like an Aquarian moon. Yes, I hate my hair, I will have some temporary fixes, but I won't do anything about it. I don't want to be someone else than who I am. So I was very stubborn to this concept. I'm not saying straightening your hair doesn't like change you or something like that, but all I'm saying is, for me, hair was a topic. Hair was, for me, something I was obsessed about, something I deeply cared about, which defines me. And so it was a very difficult thing to do, to really one day just get up and ditch every single thing. And at that time I was going to office. It's not like I was staying at home so that, you just stay however you want to stay. I was going to office, and it was really tough because I'd never ever gone out without really straightening my hair. And it might feel like, a very blunt thing to people, but I think that, then stepping out without makeup, all of these little things, they add up to bigger things, honestly. And I would say when I started making those little subtle shifts on the outside, things inside me started shifting. When things inside me started shifting, a lot of bigger stuff started shifting on the outside. So yes, it's a beautiful cycle when you start loving yourself. I mean, I would say at the core, you do love yourself. That's why you want to experience good things. It's just that we have forgotten to prioritize that, to look at it, to come back to it again and again. And so self-love is a lot about forgiving, acceptance, letting go of the judgments. And yes, I mean, I really, really believe, as I said, I do teach manifestation, but you can't really actually get into this energy of manifesting great things for yourself if you don't love yourself enough.
Yeah, that actually leads into one of the questions that she must follow you, actually. She's one of the people I put on my Instagram story if anybody had any questions for you. And someone asked me if you must teach on the law of attraction, I think, and or do some teachings on law of attraction. And so she said, how does self-love tie into the law of attraction? How does it work with the law of attraction?
Yes, it works because, as we said, you want to manifest that ideal weight. You want to manifest anything on the outside. Let's just put anything, not just your body, not just yourself, anything. That career, that money, that relationship, whatever. If you don't love yourself enough, you will use those things on the outside as a way to prove your worth or to prove who you are. Again and again, desperately. Again, desperation comes into the picture. When desperation walks into the picture, what law of attraction says, the biggest, the most difficult thing is surrendering. How can you surrender when you're so deeply attached? You have so deeply attached something to your worth. If I don't get this relationship, if I don't get this money, if I don't get this thing, I am like, things are going to be like, you just attach your self-worth. I'm not good enough.
So
you
in terms of
who
that,
you are to that thing.
In terms of that question, so the law of attraction, really self-love in relation to the law of attraction, is realizing that you are enough and loving that without the things that you're trying to manifest. And is that what you're saying?
Exactly, which is why. So somebody who has a very high self-worth, who has a very high self-esteem, will manifest things much quicker, much more easily than somebody who does not. And this is something which I really want to kind of like be loud about it, because I've just seen, whenever I talk about how to manifest XYZ, everybody's really perked up. They want to listen. Oh, how do I do it? When I talk about self-acceptance, self-love, authentic living, people are like, yeah, blah. And I mean, that's just how, because the society has conditioned us. Let's be honest. And maybe that's what now teachers like you and me, we are here to change that conditioning. Because you will not, like, again, you're coming back to that same old thing. Manifestation, I know a lot of I have been deeply observing the spiritual industry, the wellness industry for the past 2 years. As I said, I started doing this not because it was cool. I didn't even know something like this is doable. I started doing because it was just like a natural way of like how it just opened up for me. But what I've been really observing is like, we are again kind of like trapping people into this thing. Manifest this amount of money, manifest this thing, manifest that thing, manifest that thing. And yes, it's a good start, but it can really potentially very disastrously trap people. because you just get desperate about manifesting that thing. And if you've not done enough self-work, if you've not done inner work, which most of the people haven't when they're attracted to these things in the first place initially, most of the people who are attracted to spirituality, at least I would say right now, 65 to 70% are, their starting is law of attraction. Their starting point is manifestation. That's how they go deep
and
into
it's
spirituality.
interesting because just on a personal level, I kind of shy away from it a bit because I'm just like, oh, I find it can be very, very cheesy. You know, they're like, oh, manifest this car and manifest that. And I'm just like, oh, God. You know, it just sounds very, like, I've always been more interested in the other side of it as like, you know, which does go hand in hand, by the way, I think, in terms of like that is very much a focus on the physical, focusing on what you want in the physical realm and then trying to align your inner world to manifest that in the physical realm. And I think that's really interesting. But I also, when I hear about these things, they pop up on Instagram or on YouTube or whatever, because I'm really interested in spirituality. I'm just like, oh God, not another video about manifesting something, you know? But I think what's really interesting about it is, like, because personally, I've noticed in my own life anyway, that when I'm aligned in myself and when I'm really in my authentic space and projecting that into the world, that's when things happen for me and automatically, you know? So when I'm very much aligned in my inner world, then my outer world kind of lines. So that's always my focus is my inner world more. Yeah. But I think that it is an interesting topic because so many people are obsessed with manifestation, you know, and
that's primarily why I don't like to say I'm a manifestation coach. I feel manifestation is such a natural outcome. It's so obvious. When I say mindset and spirituality, I mean your mind and your heart, your mind, body, soul. When three of it combines, they come together in harmony. Of course, as I said, inner shifts lead to outer shifts. It's not something you have a choice. Yeah. It's not something you choose to do. It's something which just happens. And that's where I kind of like, yes, as I said, even I get kind of like low-key upset about the fact that how, especially I think in the West, a lot of manifestation teachers have been promoting spirituality, have been promoting sometimes materialism through this. Yeah. And I'm like, we are going back to square one. We are going back to square one. Again, I understand the guilt we have about money. I have been, as I said, for me, I have felt a lot of guilt and shame around money, around having my own money, because I wouldn't say I did not have my abundant blocks. We all have our blocks. We all have our blocks coming from the place, but then it's all attached to the inner work. My blocks, and that's something which people don't talk about. You have to take that spiritual inner pathway, the inner work to do if you want to manifest something on the outside. Let's be honest, like we are no saints here. We all come to spirituality to seek something. Something or the other in the life has not worked out, and that's why we come here as a solution. And there's no shame about it. But there has to be a point after which you start, you let go of that desire so tightly that you've held on to, and allow the deeper meaning and the deeper purpose of it to come into existence. I mean, to be fully honest, as I said, I started my spiritual journey by binge watching tarot readings because I was really looking for an answer. Till date, that manifestation has not come to light, but oh my God, my life has
so much else
360
has. That's
degree.
Amazing.
So much has happened because that desire led me to travel to this beautiful, amazing, life-changing path. Yeah. And if I'm still hung on to that thing, then I'm being deeply ungrateful. And of course, for me, as I say, that desire has been my teacher to bring me back to faith, to teach me everything that I know today. kind of like learned it through that desire. And all of us will have that desire to teach us. Desire is not bad, longing is not bad, but it's like it'll shift from time to time. I'm just doing a course right now, a spiritual course, and he exactly says the same thing, that all these saints have kind of like told us desires are bad, desires are bad, desires are bad, but desire is life. Desire is what makes you feel alive, and when you are alive, that's when you desire something. Now but the only difference is that desire does not cut you off like, oh, I'll do the work only if I get this.
Yeah.
The work is so much more deeper, because I think even spiritual texts knew we wouldn't do all of this inner healing work if we really didn't seek anything.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting as well that you touched on this, because in terms of the law of attraction, a lot of teachings around the law of attraction are really focused on this, think positive, stay in this positive vortex or whatever it is, all the time. And, obviously a positive mindset towards something is better than a negative mindset, but I think it is unrealistic, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this. It's unrealistic to have this perpetual state of positivity, and it becomes almost like, I have friends that are very into this, and they drive me mad sometimes, because it's almost a denial of reality, and also almost a denial of our humanity, because I personally believe that we are, spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're here to experience all aspects of humanity, and that includes the negative things that we have labeled negative emotions, and it's really how we navigate through that. And so I think that you're cutting off an aspect of yourself by saying, oh, I'm going to ignore that and I'm only going to think positive. I think it's almost detrimental. It's also almost a little harmful. And I think as well that some of those negative things, or things that we feel that they don't feel as good to us, are actually signposts to areas that we need to heal and that we need to address. And then what comes from that healing is a natural state of an elevated positivity. Do you know what I mean? It comes from a genuine place. So can you speak to that a little bit as well? Because I think there's a lot of out of context teaching in regard to the law of attraction in that space.
I think you already answered it so well. But to just put it into perspective, then yes, I mean, I think, in some ways, I won't even deny the idea behind being positive, because let's be very honest, somewhere, our society, our movies, everything around us has glorified darkness a lot.
Yeah.
Crying on the bathroom floor is very, very, very dramatic, and something which it's so painful, but we almost desire it so much. I mean, I'm just speaking out of experience. Because I grew up reading these books. I grew up watching these movies. And I've done all of that. And once it always happens. You go, you do all of that, and then and once you've released all of that, then okay, I'm chill.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that bad most of the times. And so in some retrospect, I won't even say that's bad to say, to kind of darkness has been glorified. Darkness has been made very romantic. Darkness has been made as something which we unknowingly, unconsciously have been somehow seeking and chasing and manifesting in our lives. We have manifested a lot of darkness in our lives because it's especially creative people, especially a writer. At least I believe I need to have this sad, super tragic love story to be a creator, to be an artist.
And for it to be true love as well. If it doesn't hurt, then is it really love? That's quite a common programming, actually,
Yeah, but then, having gone through that, it hurts, and then you realize it's not really worth it. What's not worth it? I asked for it, I got it, And then when you get it, then you realize there's nothing freaking romantic about it.
Yeah.
If you're still romanticizing it, you're still in the bubble phase. You still haven't really felt that darkness 100%. Like, fine, go on. You keep on manifesting more of it until you really reach the rock bottom. It's like, there's nothing romantic about this darkness. And that's what I think as a collective and as a humanity we need to understand. And then we need to once we understand that, I think we kind of come to this place where, again, self-love comes into the picture. When you really love yourself enough, there would be a point where you take responsibility, where you would get up from your bed, where you will take a shower, or where you will do something different, where you will make a tea for yourself, where you will go for a walk. These little actions make a whole world of difference.
Yeah.
It's not about having a high vibration all the time. It is about your desire to live a better life, your desire to have more pleasant experiences, to put it into simple words.
Yeah.
It is like, and I can still say, as I say, that for me, it's super comfortable to be in that place of, I'm sad. Oh, it's so bad. But now that I know better, I'm like, I know it doesn't help me long. So do that for an hour, do that for 2 hours, do it for as long as you want to do it. But then there has to be this place where you can uplift yourself, where you can like, I'm done with this. It's, these days, I'm like, it's boring.
Yeah.
There was a time I could stay in that bubble for like a month, celebrate it for like a month, full on, for months, I would say. Now I'm like, after I've cried, after done that releasing, after I have really meditated, now I know how to do things for myself, felt it. The thing is, even if you have healing modalities, you have to feel the emotions. It passes through you. Once it passes, the suffering is as long as you deny the emotions. The moment you let it pass through you, it's passed. It has passed. And once it passes, it's no more fun to listen to sad song. Like, after a while, it gets kind of boring. And then you're like, okay, let's do something different. And that's how you move in life. Otherwise, it's very easy to get stuck there. Which is why I think somewhere they say you're not able to manifest things you manifest because you're not moving. Your energy is stagnant. So it doesn't mean that you go and escape that thing, but it means that you go and probably do something to shake that energy off. Probably do a yoga, probably dance. Just do something or just let it pass through. For me, I'm a Pisces, I cry so easily. So maybe it's easier for me. But I still have the capacity to run and escape and suppress a thing for a week.
Yeah.
So I'm too busy to deal with this shit, I'm too busy. But then there comes a point where I'm like, okay, let's just sit with this and let's just like get over with this.
Yeah. But that's some great advice as well on how to let that emotion pass through you rather than denying that emotion, to really feel it for as long as you need to, and then remove it from your body. Like, I loved how you said, move your body, go and dance, go and do yoga, go and exercise, because that does really process that.
Make yourself a tea, just like smell some peppermint essential oil, or just do something, take a shower. Those little self-care, subtle shifts, these acts make a lot of difference. Just go into the nature, just touch the leaves. I've done all of this. That's why I talk about it. I've not read it somewhere, because I was in a place where I knew going out and escaping is nowhere an option. So I'm not gonna like call up a friend and just rant about this thing and blame 50 people. Like, that toxic gossiping paradigm got over for me. It was closed. I knew that's not working and that's not healthy, and so I'm not going to do that for sure. So what now?
But that's so evolved, though, of you, actually. Especially at that age, only a couple of years ago, like, you're still very young, to be able to think like this. Like, I mean, I'm probably like 10 years older than you. And, I still have these moments where I'm like, no, I have the awareness as well where I go, I'm not going to go and do that. But, so I'm really amazed by how rapid your transformation and your ascension has been. Actually, it's
I
really amazing.
really feel right now a lot of us are just experiencing rapid transformations and rapid ascensions.
Like warp
My
speed.
sister is 21. I think the universe right now is just like not in a mood
Yeah,
to just
it's
like procrastinate
I don't
anymore.
have
And they're
10
like,
years to work with you
"Let's
now. Yeah.
yeah, let's just do it. Like, so for me, what I experienced in 4 or 5 years, my sister experienced in like 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for her, it's been, and I'm like, you're just 22. When I was 22, I was so asleep and so numb.
and when we see it, also when we kind of look at it the other way as well with our parents as well, it kind of in their sort of spiritual. My parents are very spiritual, but even compared to them, I'm more like. It's more like rapid warp speed, and it really is. The time is now. The urgency is now, and it's time for people to wake up, and it's happening. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I see. So, like, when I was 2 years ago, I started my Instagram page. I saw no one from India really doing this, talking about all of these things. And now I really see these people in their, like, late teens or early 20s, 21, 22, really starting their own, talking about vibration, talking about shifting your reality and all of these things. And I'm like, wow, what just happened there? But I kind of like get it because, as I said, I see it in my sister. She might not have a lot of outer experiences as I've had in the last 5 years, 4 years, but her transformation has been rapid and valid, I would say, nonetheless. Like, it is valid. So, like, a part of me would feel like, oh, you're still, younger. You don't know. But of course, she's really wise. She is really wise, and she is really navigating her own path. Despite of not having so many external... It's just like, I think it's not like... It's like age is an illusion. Time is an illusion.
Yeah. Absolutely,
it is.
Absolutely, and also I think that the times that we're in the earth at the moment is it's just everything is ramping up and everything is speeding up, and it's necessary for people to be more awake and at a faster pace, I think. But let's talk about that.
Yes.
Let's talk about who some major influences been in your life, either famous people in the spiritual space or just people in your personal life. Who do you look up to? Who are your mentors?
So I think it keeps on shifting and evolving. I think as obviously as you evolve, and I think your spiritual teachers also have a lot of soul contract with you as well. Even if you've never met them, I really, really believe that. And for me, it's been like, I think Gabrielle Bernstein played a very important role for a very huge chunk of my life, like the last 1.5 years. Especially when I was starting my own business. So for me, even though she's in her 40s, I could connect with everything because, again, I feel like things in the West and things in the East are a little different. Probably what she experienced 20 years ago is what I'm experiencing right now. Like I had binge watched her like crazy because, and I think for me, she was a breath of fresh air because whenever I saw people who were into spirituality, they were either completely detached from the reality, from this real, tangible, materialistic world, or they were really like, into this whole commercialized way. And I think she was somewhere like, I really like the way she speaks, and she's had this casual conversational style, and of course, she started her journey when she was probably 25. So for me, maybe it was even that fact of relatability, which was really like spot on for me.
Yeah.
So I think especially for me to start a business, and I had no such role model in India around me at that time, that this is how it can look like in the next few years maybe. So for me, it was hugely inspirational. For me, I think Marie Forleo, even though she's not spiritual, but I think the whole business aspect of it kind of like really motivated me. Going into spiritual, I think I started doing tarot, watching Amber Khan. She's a tarot reader, and even though I don't connect with her anymore so much now, in this year, I don't watch her anymore. I don't really connect with her anymore. In my initial years, I really did connect with her a lot. And I think that's how I started doing tarot reading.
But I think that's how it goes, isn't it? You have like something that piques your interest, and then suddenly a whole world opens up to you, and then you start to find your way with other people as well. And,
yes.
Yeah. But we all love Gabby Bernstein.
Yeah.
She's amazing. I just listened to her new audiobook called You Are the Guru on Audible. It's really good, actually. So I recommend anybody, wanting to dive into some Gabby Bernstein, that's a really good place to go, actually. So, yeah, enjoy.
Yeah. So when I say like Gabby Bernstein, and I think that's the one good way to go about it, which I've also learned. So earlier I would get really attached to my teachers in the way like whatever they say, it's 100% right, and there's no X or Y with it. So when they would say something which doesn't resonate with me, I would still stick on to it until I would really feel like, oh, it's not resonating. And now I've come to this point where, of course, nobody's your duplicate. Nobody's supposed to be your 100% duplicate copy. People are there to inspire us and take what resonates and leave what doesn't resonate. And that's so simple, but I know it's not so easy, because when you really, really like a person, you really want to, let's just like connect 100%. And I think it's okay, because what I have also learned is like, I'm someone who loves reading, who loves watching, who loves learning. And for me, the greatest lesson is to be, but I'm also very intuitive. I also have a wisdom of my own. And that's where I think we all need to kind of like start discerning that a lot of times we will have things which we know, which we understand, which probably nobody around us is talking. And so for me, like in the past, ever since I've started my business, I've had a lot of these business coaches that I have been following. And I connected to them for a while, then something starts feeling off, and then I realized just because they are apparently at the top doesn't mean that that's the only way to do things.
Yeah.
That was right for them maybe, but maybe I'm here to bring something new, and if it doesn't feel aligned, it's okay. And the moment I said that, I attracted another teacher who did align with me. Another business coach who's more into spirituality. Like lately, she feels more connected, and so I think you should give yourself this freedom. I mean, I don't know if it could be different for other people.
No, I think it's actually a really powerful thing to say, and I think it's a really important thing to say, especially in these times. I sort of touched on it a little earlier in the podcast, that we're moving out of this space of follow my leader. It's not the time anymore to be looking to one person to show you the way and to follow the path. It's really, and that's what actually this podcast is all about, is bringing people with different opinions and different modalities and different points of view and reference, and being able to intuitively curate your own practices and your own life and what resonates with you. And so I'm really love to hear you say that, actually, that you kind of can glean pieces from lots of different people. I think that's really the way forward. That's the
I mean, I used to think, I need to have this one teacher, but I'm just letting go of that thought process, because I feel like I think it kind of binds you. Like, for example, Sadhguru was someone, obviously he is a big name in India, and I was not connecting to him so much probably 2 or 3 years ago, and now I am. So I think there is a time for you. As I said, it's always a soul contract with your teacher as well, even if you've never met them. But if it's coming to me into my reality at this point, then most likely I have something to learn from him at this time.
Yes, absolutely. And I also love Sadhguru, although sometimes I'm just like, please stop talking about cricket. I want you to talk about something deep and profound. And he's rambling on about cricket. But, I do also love Sadhguru. I find him really, really interesting as well. And so let's talk about a little bit more about...
And again, I was just saying that again, even while listening to him right now, there are places where I'm like, I'm not sure that I connect 100%, because so it's okay. And I think even he says it. I know what I know. I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
So take what and because, I mean, let's just admit, everybody have had a very different experience than you have. the age gap between me and him is tremendously wide. The place where he is in, the time in which he has grown up, the time in which I have grown up, they are very different, and it's okay. So the areas in which I don't resonate with him, maybe I can resonate with someone else, and probably there are areas in which I do resonate with him, so I can just like be grateful to that and just receive that. Like, you don't have to be so, I think it's all about dissolving your ego and not being so stubborn, like, oh, this has to match 100% to a certain idea.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And I think as well that you have your own intuition, you have your own discernment, and we all know when we hear someone say something that we need to hear, but we don't like it, but we know that we need to hear it. And we also have we also really know when we hear something that just doesn't resonate with us. And there's a big difference in that feeling. And I think we all have the intuitive capacity to be able to discern that. So, so I think that's really a concept that we all can navigate through as well. And so tell me a little bit more about your own offerings, about the things that we can find in the Dream Life Lounge, and where we can go from there.
Yeah, so my one-on-one offerings are all about exactly what I just talked about. It's about bringing your inner world to your external. My one-on-one is being like categorized into 3 ways depending on the time frame, but I really feel it moves from the first concept of creating a miracle mindset, which is a 6-week course, a 6-week one-on-one offering, which is all about really getting your mind space in a place where, of course, all of this might sound like it's very manifestation rooted, but if you've listened to this entire podcast, you know I am not a fan of escaping your inner work. Inner work is the foundation of everything that I do.
Yeah.
So, the miracle mindset is all about creating that mindset which attracts what you want to attract, but of course that happens through healing the places, because in your true essence you already have a mindset which just attracts what aligns to you. What does not allow you is because of these blocks that you have manifested, you've grown up with, you have around them through, you've absorbed it from the society. My second one-on-one offering is about embodying the high vibrational you, as I said. If you want to manifest anything on the outside, you have to be that person who lives that outside. So self-acceptance, self-love, and all of that, the inner deep work, and all of this includes the inner child healing, the ancestral work, all of that. So my offerings are not so catered to, we're going to do inner child work, we're going to do ancestral healing, we're going to do this. It is because I feel like I have brought all these components together into one frame, and evolved it into a place which can kind of like help them.
And
then my third offering is... Yeah, so the third offering is the 6-month offering, which is kind of like, which combines the elements of both of these, the high vibe embodiment and the miracle mindset. So you create a miracle mindset, you embody that highest version of you, and that's when you start taking actions in your outside life to create those shifts. As I said, spirituality is not just about an hour in your day. It is so much more, and it will cause you to make some radical shifts in your life. Most of us do, and I'm not someone who would deny your desires. If you desire something, that's amazing, because that's mean you're alive. You really want and desire something to go towards, and so that's what's in the entire, my work is based on the inner work and the external work coming together to manifest what you want to.
Fantastic. It sounds amazing. And so give our listeners one practice, one thing that they can do today that they can implement in their life to really begin to tap into their own inner world.
So I have so many, I would say. Like,
I know, I was going to say, I'm sure you have so many.
As I said, EFT, I'm a big fan of EFT, so I do make a lot of EFT videos on my IGTV as well. But I think one thing that, depending on where you are on your spiritual journey, honestly, if you've never done gratitude, start from that.
Yeah.
I cannot play enough emphasis on that. I stop doing this practice and I come back to this practice. I stop doing it for a while, then I have to come back. Because this is the essence of it. I mean, it might feel like, oh, everybody talks about gratitude, not a big deal. But I really feel the gratitude is a very high vibrational practice and ritual, because it's so easy and it's so simple that it almost feels complicated. So if you're somebody who's never journaled, somebody who's totally a newbie, start with gratitude. Start by journaling gratitude. Start going for gratitude walks. Just see everything around you. Whatever comes to your mind, appreciation for that, and being really grateful for that. And that will definitely, actually, if you do it for 21 days, things are gonna shift around your life for sure.
Yeah, amazing.
If you are kind of like somewhere in a more advanced level, I would say
I knew you would give us more than one practice. I knew it.
I would really suggest, like, I think to kind of like start connecting to nature, start connecting to the elements of nature, the moon, the sun. Feel into the vibration, feel into that. Even your body, I feel a lot of times we disconnect from our body. We want to, seek elements from the outside, entities from the outside, but our bodies are also a great navigation system. Your body can literally tell you where is the pain stored. So if you feel like, if you just like close your eyes for a second and you really like, do you want to do this right now?
Yeah. Yes, let's.
Okay, awesome. So just like take 2 or 3 deep breaths so that, because we're talking, so we're stabilized. Inhale. Exhale. Once more. Exhale. Yes, now just have your eyes closed and just go quiet and go within and feel. Do you feel any sensation in your body right now? Anywhere where there's a little more tightness, where there's a little more pain maybe? Do you feel it somewhere?
Yeah, a little bit. I can feel it a little bit in my shoulders.
So let's go deeper and let's just maybe see what's there. So what are you feeling burdened about? Is there something which is like weighing on your shoulder, something which feels heavy, and something which feels pressurizing? Let the answers come to you. Let them just intuitively pop. Don't think. And once you have them pop up for you, once you have them, just ask yourself, does this serve me in any which way? Having this pain, having this tightness. It could be a physical pain. It could be something in your work. It could be something in your life. Anything. Just ask yourself, does this serve me? Does this feel good? Let's just ask, does this feel good? Does this feel good?
Feels good to release it.
Oh. Yeah, so just breathe into that space and just release it. And so like this, you can just go further and maybe just go deeper and see where else in your body you feel it. And for me, most of the times, I do get an answer which is like really loud and which is like, oh, this thing is really heavy. Oh, the pain is about this. And as you go deeper and deeper into it, you spend more time doing this. You can do it with yourself. You can do it with someone else. So many answers come up, honestly. I'm like, where is this even coming from?
Yeah. And it's so interesting because just that moment of stillness, it's like today I've had a really crazy day today. I sort of shared a little bit with you before we came on the podcast that I'm having I feel like I'm in a Mercury retrograde and there isn't one. And I'm just having all of these electronic communication kind of things go a little wrong for me. And and what came up for me and just in that moment of stillness is that my shoulders, I often hold tension. I know that when I hold tension in my shoulders that I'm carrying things that are not for me. And it's so interesting because what came up for me was when you said, how is this serving you? Which I don't always do actually, is that it was like, I feel productive when I'm trying to fix everything. It's like even though I'm not fixing anything, I feel productive because I'm trying. Whereas, just release that, let it go. Things happen, like your WhatsApp doesn't work all the time or like just silly little things, that are outside of your control and just let them go. It's okay. Let them drop.
And most of the time, I think this is what happens. There are these deeper patterns, as you said. You have a pattern of fixing things so that you feel productive, but that doesn't really make you feel productive. That doesn't really solve the problem, but that just like adds on to the chaos. And so you can, honestly, we can just go on in depth for an hour on this. But basically, every moment, every second is an opportunity for you to break a pattern. It's an opportunity for you to release something which literally has been governing your entire life in a way which doesn't align with you. So, if we would have done this for the next, say, 40 minutes or 60 minutes, I'm sure such a radical transformation would have happened. Even after this, I would really suggest you to just, take half an hour and just go deeper and do this.
Absolutely.
So many things can come up and you can just lovingly let them go, because the thing is, when we don't release, they're still sitting in our bodies, and when they're sitting in our bodies, that means they are sitting in our soul, in our energy, in our mind, in our heart space, every freaking where. And they are, as I said, our miracle mindset or the good vibration or the self-love. It already exists, but the other things, these blocks, these patterns, they keep on interfering and resisting the miracle. And so the more you go within, the more you heal. This is literally what I've been doing for the past 3 years. The more you do that, the more you kind of just obviously and naturally become a magnet to miracles and a magnet to whatever you truly desire, or the life that is in the highest alignment of you. So,
I also strongly believe in the connection as well of our physical disease and ailments manifesting in the body are really things that we've been holding on to that we needed to release. And so I definitely think that there's a connection there as well. And there's a lot of science that is now proving this connection as well, which is interesting. But so how can people find you? How can our listeners find you and find out more about your amazing courses?
Yes, so you can find me at Dream Life Lounge on Instagram. I am very active on Instagram, so if anybody DMs me, I'm always there to answer. And you can find me on my website, dreamlifelounge.com, and I actually have a free course also. So when you just sign up to my newsletter, you get access to my free 5-day course, which is all about getting alignment. So I teach EFT, journaling, literally going through the process of manifestation, but through these modalities. And yes, that's how you connect with me. I do blogs, I do podcasts, I think I share a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
so if you're
you really are a manifesting generator. Really are a true manifesting generator.
So but I would say again, I think I just did a live yesterday, honestly, on creating, and I don't think I have created this way. The way I'm doing right now in my entire life, even though I said I've been writing ever since I graduated from college. And it's because I think I was not feeling this freedom in my mind-body space, because I was not aligned to this energy. My heart was really closed, and it's always like an ongoing beautiful journey of healing and breaking these patterns and coming back to a higher alignment. And I think that's how businesses grow. That's how we grow. As we grow, our businesses expand and grow and shift as well. And so does our friendships and our relationships. Everything.
Yeah, everything shifts. It's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful, expansive process. And thank you so much for joining me, Shivani. You are such a magical, bright being. And I really love your concept and your approach to modern manifestation and self-love, and it's really been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Same here. I loved it so much. It was such a beautiful, beautiful conversation, and I really do hope to have more of these. Thank you for inviting me.
Amazing. You're most welcome. I hope you enjoyed this episode and you got some things to take away from our amazing guests' insight. If you did enjoy this episode, please subscribe and also leave us a review. And for more information on the Hadassah Collective, you can visit our Instagram page at Hadassah Collective. I hope you'll join me again for our next episode at the same time next week. And until then, have a wonderful week.